Tony and Fran, for being gracious as always and offering their place. This went from one of the things Joe wanted to do before he left us was have a big glass of wine and a piece of pizza. And he didn't get to do that. And he wanted to do that with you guys. So, do it with him. I don't know if I can do this, because it was Joe and I, when we would have a speech or talk to you, we always did it together. I wrote it, he corrected it, I corrected his. So, this is my best effort. The reason I wanted to do this is because all of you were very special to Joe, and I know you didn't get a chance to say goodbye to him. And so I thought it would be nice to just remember him with all of you. I don't know how well you knew Joe, because he didn't let himself be very well known. But when I met him, he was without a beard, and he was a little wild. I know you find that hard to believe. I know you find that hard to believe, but in the beginning, he was a little wild. He had just come out of the service when I met him. My Joe was a very modest man. He was handsome. He didn't think that mattered at all. He taught at Annapolis Academy. He never told anybody. I told everybody. He didn't care. He was the head of a big personnel department for a big company. That didn't impress him. What he liked and what impressed him was when he would be the driver for Liberty, and he would drive all the seniors to daycare. That impressed him. That's the way he was. He was a very quiet man, and very private. I guess you know he didn't talk a lot.
Wants to hear him. No, I just.
Unless you mention politics. If you mention politics, I can call you to shut it up.
It's hard to get out of your chair.
And I'm just dying to know what he's thinking about all this. Joe knew what was important, and what was important to him was his family. Can you hear me?
No.
What was important to Joe was his family. That was first and foremost. And his God, and his religion. Joe was a very prayerful man, but he wasn't a Sunday Christian. He lived his life as a Christian. He was kind to everyone. I think he would, if you asked him to do something, he would do it. That's who he was. And he was very kind to me. He was, above all, when I think of Joe, I think he had integrity. He wouldn't do something that was against what he believed. You know that. You all know that about him.
Yeah.
When we came up to Beach Mountain the first time, he looked at me and I looked at him and we said, "Yep, this is it."
Yeah.
This is it. And every time we would go somewhere and come back and we'd come in, he'd say, "Yep, this is it." He was very happy here. Joe didn't have a lot of friends where we lived before. Like I said, that's because he was so private. But thanks to Fran insisting that he come to Bocce, he met all of you. And I hope you know how important you were to him and how he missed the times when he couldn't be here, because he really wanted to be with you and he really wanted to be out there. So that's really all I have to say about Joe, except I miss him awful. And I'm sure you do too. But if any of you have anything you'd like to say, that's fine. There's some pictures out in the living room if anybody would like one of a picture that Stephen took. And that's about all I want to say. But thank you all for being here.
You're welcome,
Appreciate
Jen.
it.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
John, I just have a quick note. like to read it to all. Just says, thank you all for coming today. We who knew Joe Burns pay tribute to him, an all-around terrific guy. Joe was in many ways an uncommon guy, and I say that in the most positive sense. He was a very kind, very smart, and wise man, a great listener, a loyal friend with a sharp sense of humor, but never hurtful. Joe personified the very best. His gift was somehow passing on to us his fundamental wisdom and kindness. But by knowing him, we are all, at the very least, wiser, kinder, and better people. I would like to think he is watching all of us now with that amused but appreciative smile. In a way, I can almost hear him now saying, keep it short, Tony, and let these good people eat. So God bless you always, Joe. And dear Lord, please give Joe a collective, loving hug from all of us here today. Amen.
Amen.
I'd like to say one thing about Joe. He's a character. I was working the guard shack one day, and on his way out he stopped, and I went out to talk to him, and he said he was going up to pick up his daughter from Germany, and he said, when I come back and we check in, ask her for her passport. When Joe came back, I asked her for their passport. They went, what? And Joe was laughing so hard. And I'd never forget that. I mean, that sticks in my mind with Joe.
Good story.
Where's their passport?
That's precious.
Everybody's saying how sweet Joe was. I could get his Irish up.
Yeah.
All I had to do was say, Democrat. True.
I used to try to arrange,
Take a few.
if I could, private meetings with Joe and Heidi because they're both right-wing nut jobs, and they could communicate better on politics than Joe and I could because we fight.
Yeah, we were on the same wavelength.
He'd sit at that end of the table and I'd sit at this end.
Well, you know, my mother was a Burn, so I always said to Joe, you know, we might be related. My mother came from a family of 14. So when I took him for one of his treatments, I waited until he was done. I said, how you feeling? He said, good, Sarah. I said, is it okay if I make a stop? He said, yeah. So I went to my sister's to drop off food, and I told them, there's a possibility we might come. It depends on how Joe is, because my brother-in-law had the same illness. So they're on the porch, and I tooted the horn. They came out, and I gave them the food, and Richie comes out, and he meets Joe, and then we're driving away. He said, you know, they're very nice people. I said, aren't we all, Joe? So that was a nice treat, because I was always talking about Joe and our bocce, and so it was nice to meet them.
Joe appreciated and was surprised by all you guys did for him. Heidi got me through the whole thing, I think.
The people who called
And-
Dad.
I just want to say thank you from me for all that you guys did.
It's a good community.
The first time in his life
They're wonderful.
I could ever remember, Joe called somebody and asked him to take him someplace. He called Frank and said, let's go get his app, or whatever it was. That never
Bada
happened
bing,
before.
bada bing,
Bada
bada
bing.
Bada bing.
I still have strong theories
And
about that.
I said, boy, this is good.
Right. Well, the bada bing is actually in Primo Hoagie at the Rhodes Bars.
We know what it is.
Yeah. Sandwiches there.
Sandwiches there.
We know what you guys were doing.
Cutlet and provolone, you know, mozzarella and
Stop it,
everything.
stop it.
I used to say, what's a bada bing, bada bang?
Bada bing.
Sandwich there.
Between Joe,
That's
Tony,
Brooklyn.
and myself, we were the only ones who knew that bada bing meant Primo. And he was a good friend, and he listened, and that was
How
one of his
about the
best
soggy
qualities.
hamburger you made him?
The soggy hamburger.
And he said it was great.
Yeah, it was terrible hamburger. But he was a good guy, and as Janet said before, at first, the word that comes to my mind the most is integrity and honesty, and he was the epitome of it. And
And a
he
gentleman.
was a gentle guy, right? And he was my friend, and is my friend.
I think he was friends with all of us.
Yeah,
We
he
all
was
liked
our
Joe.
friend.
Of course, he
Of
made
course,
friends
we
very-
both throw Janet in too.
Yeah.
Well,
Be careful, she's a star here now.
right.
We're diminishing her
She'll
star
remember
quality.
everything you said
I
there.
know.
Well, we met you. What was it up at the airport? Yeah, Hazelton Airport.
We moved in the
We
same
moved in
time.
the same time. Right.
Moved in exactly the same time.
So I liked him right away, and
All of
you
our
had to work on it.
I had to work on Weisenheimer.
No, but
How about poor Joe here, go live with me?
And he loved every minute of it.
He did.
Every minute.
he got the title
He
of
did
Admiral.
love her. He loved her dearly.
Admiral Burns.
Admiral
Yeah.
Burns, when he
Well,
threw
I'm
that
sure there
ball,
were moments.
no,
Sounds like maybe 15 minutes in there where I don't know.
He was a good shot, good bocce.
Aw,
You know, you
Jay.
look around this room, and you realize that he touched every one of our lives in one way or another.
That's
He was
absolutely true.
wonderful. I remember seeing him in church on Sundays. And it was so good just to see him there. And then when we would walk out, we would just say, "Hey, how you doing?" And away he went. But it was nice. It's amazing and beautiful.
But you did say something, Janet. You said he was a good Christian, but not a Sunday Christian. There are so many people that are just Sunday Christians, and there are more of them than there are like Joe, which is all the time.
He just lived it.
Yeah.
He didn't make a fuss about it. He-
Right.
Okay, so. Finally got to you, huh?
He's thirsty.
I am.
Anybody who doesn't know, the three people that were standing back there,
Here we are.
that's my son, my soon-to-be son-in-law, and my daughter Jennifer.
Hey, everybody.
Thanks.
Oh.
And you look like your dad in the uniform.
Hi, Jennifer.
Oh, yeah? That's a compliment. I'll take that.
You do.
I met,
I mean,
I met you.
that picture
At
is
the hospital.
Brooklyn.
We met at the hospital.
Yeah, me too. We met him at the hospital.
The hospital.
She said that's
The nursing home. It was like a hospital.
That's the one.
I think we met at hospice.
Yes.
I'll get that. Don't worry about it. I got it.
Oh, thank you.